Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts. And I'm excited to kick off Season 2 of our podcast series in partnership with Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. It's called We Are REC. Every week we'll release a new episode talking to different people from REC about a host of different topics. We'll get tips for saving money on your electric bill. We'll talk about renewable energy and the impact it can have in our communities. We'll get some behind-the-scenes info about what happens when the power goes out in a storm. Don't miss out on information about community grants, scholarships, REC-hosted events, and more. Get every single episode on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or on Spotify. Just do a quick search for We Are REC. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Monday as you are listening to the show today. We, however, have pre-recorded our conversation over Zoom on a Wednesday afternoon. We are chatting today on the Zoom screen with Rich Vinskoski. He is the Director of Elections and the Registrar for Frederick County. And Rich, I told you before we started recording for the radio show how very excited I was that we were able to work this out, because I love getting on my soapbox. Not only because it makes me about 6 foot taller, but I love getting on my soapbox to encourage people to vote, because it is one of the single most important things that we as citizens of this country can do to have some say in the outcome of our future and what's going to happen to us on a day-to-day basis.
You are absolutely right.
I should do a public service announcement for you. Do you want me to come do a PSA for you?
We could do that, yes.
Well, I'm glad that you agreed to come and have this conversation with me today, and I have a ton of questions. But before we get into the weeds on the actual voting process, let's talk for a minute about Frederick County as a whole. So how many registered voters do we have in Frederick County?
We have just under 62,500, which is up almost 1,000 from a previous month ago.
Oh, so a lot of people are registering to vote as we're getting closer and closer to this upcoming election.
Correct.
And I had asked you before we started recording too about my voter registration card, because I know there's a whole list of things that most people will typically take with them when they go to vote in person on the day of the election. And we're going to talk about early voting in person as well. Can I just take my voter registration card with me when I go vote, or do I need to take my driver's license?
No, as of July 1st, the law did change that you no longer need a photo ID, so your voter card is sufficient identification. Of course, most people will use their driver's license or a DMV ID card, and that's fine, as well. There is other lists of acceptable IDs that'll be at each polling place, also on our website for the full list.
And I know the key sometimes is making sure that those addresses match, because if you move around quite a bit and your voter registration card address may not match your driver's license address or match something else, you really need to make sure that you have the right address on as many forms of your identification as possible.
Right, and it's one thing that's a little difficult right now because of DMV. We're getting a lot of new registered folks that are moving into the county that aren't able to get their driver's license updated. Like mine, I have mine expired in April. I don't have an appointment until November to get mine. So that is acceptable. I mean, if you don't have anything with your updated ID, acceptable form of ID is a bank statement, electrical bill with your name and address on it. As long as that matches what's in the poll book, then that's acceptable ID.
So let's talk for a second about the ballot itself and who's going to be on it. So who in Frederick County who will people in Frederick County see on their ballot for the upcoming election?
Well, this year we actually have 7 different ballot styles. All right, so depending on what precinct you're voting in, for example, Shawnee District, they have a Board of Supervisors special election. Of course, there's a presidential race, the U.S. Senate race. There is the 10th District House of Representatives, the 29th District House of Representatives. And then locally, Stephen City and Middletown Town Council and Mayor.
And then there are two state referendums on the ballot this year. And are those just for residents of Virginia? When they say state referendums, those are things to just change the constitution of the Commonwealth, right?
Correct.
I think sometimes we think about the people that we're electing and we forget that there might be something else on that ballot when we go to the polls.
Correct. And that seems to be that people are most confused about that. And then they get there and they say, oh, what is this? And then it takes a while longer for people to read through those to make a choice. So if people are aware of those ahead of time, that will save them time at the polls. And we also will have a poster of each of the amendments posted at the polls so they could read over that prior to getting in line or going to fill out their ballot as well.
So let me ask you about poll workers, because we're hearing on a national, on a state, and even to some degree, maybe a local level, about the need for poll workers and the concern that in the middle of this pandemic, you may not have as many of them as you're going to need in order to properly conduct these elections. Do you need poll workers right now? How would somebody volunteer to do that?
Back a month or so ago, we had probably over roughly 325 people on my list of people who had signed up to be a poll worker. Once we started making phone calls, we probably did lose between, 40 and 50 of that age that would prefer not to work this election. Of course, to sign up to be a poll worker, you would have to come in and meet with me or my deputy register, fill out a form, which is just mainly contact information, and then you take an oath, right, as a poll worker. This election, we are going to need between 240 and 250 poll workers. The biggest issue that we have when someone volunteers to work is keeping them in their own precinct. We're such a large county. If we have someone who votes at Shenandoah and volunteers, I try to keep them in that precinct and not move them to Gainsborough or Shawnee Land, Fire Hall, North Mountain Fire Hall. So sometimes that's an issue that we have for poll workers, but right now we're doing pretty good this time. Unlike a lot of places, like you said, I think in the state, there's other places that are short. I think last November, our average age for a poll worker was 68.
Oh, wow. I joked with you earlier that, I would be more than happy to be a poll worker if I didn't have to be there before the sun got there in the mornings.
That is so true. The poll workers have to be at the precinct at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready for the 6 o'clock opening.
Yeah, no, there's a reason the show airs at noon, and I was telling you about that beforehand. So let's talk for a second about all of the different options for people to be able to vote, because I know that they can obviously on election day go to the poll or whatever poll in their precinct. There is early in-person voting that, as you and I are sitting here recording this on a Wednesday, will start on Friday. However, people that are listening to it on Monday, it's already open, so they can go and do that already. But there's vote by mail, and when you and I were emailing back and forth, I was asking you about absentee. Absentee ballot and vote by mail is kind of the same thing. It's just a different phrase now, right?
Correct. Before, it used to be absentee covered in person or by mail, and you had to have a reason to why you weren't going to be able to make it to the polls on election day. Again, July 1st, that law changed. So you have vote by mail. You don't have to have an excuse if you'd prefer, especially with the COVID pandemic now. That's reason enough, but you don't have to have a reason if you just want to vote by mail. The voting early in person, that's open to all registered voters in the county as well. Starting Friday the 18th, we're opening up a new Sunnyside location, a satellite office that's on Sunnyside Plaza, just 522 north, just north of Winchester. And the reason we're opening that is mainly because we don't have the parking or the space down here to handle the volumes I'm expecting to want to vote prior to election day. So that Sunnyside is open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then on the last two Saturdays in October, the 24th and the 31st, it will be open 9 to 5. Now, of course, our office here on Kent Street is also open during normal business hours, 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, and 9 to 5 on those last two Saturdays as well to vote.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, can we get into how do I get my ballot in the mail? When do I have to have it back in? If I haven't registered yet, can we go through the list of all of the dates and just kind of the process for all the different ways that somebody can place their vote for this next election?
Sounds great.
Okay, we're going to do all of that in just a couple of minutes. We are on the Zoom screen today having a conversation with Rich Vinskoski. He is the Director of Elections and the Registrar for Frederick County. We are talking about all of the different ways that you can make your vote happen. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes to continue this conversation with Rich. Hang in there.
Do you know anyone who is struggling with financial hardships because of coronavirus? Our new webinar called Coping with the Money Crunch can help. We'll talk about immediate options to consider, revising or creating a spending plan, and lots of community resources. Then we'll cover how to narrow your priorities, contact creditors, and avoid scams and risky loans. The webinar is free, and you can either join by phone or through Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer. You can find out more by visiting the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program on Facebook or calling Karen Poff at 540-635-4549. Let me show you how to make your own plan or help someone you care about get through the crisis. Call 635-4549 or visit @NSV Financial Education on Facebook today.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We are having a conversation today with Rich Vinskoski. He is the Director of Elections and the Registrar for Frederick County. You, of course, are listening to it on a Monday. We have pre-recorded it, though, on a Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to try and say dates as much as possible because some of the things that Rich and I are going to be talking about will have already happened by the time you're listening to this on the air, but not quite have happened when we're sitting here talking about it. But Rich, so the election day is November 3rd. It's always the first Tuesday in November.
Correct.
And what is the last day for me to register to vote if I haven't already?
To be able to vote in the November 3rd election is October 13th.
And can I do that at your office? Where would I go to register to vote?
Yes, easiest way if you have access online is elections with an S .Virginia spelled out .gov.
Oh, I didn't know I could register online.
Yes, you can register online and you can also request a vote by mail ballot online as well.
So what if I'm not sure if I'm registered? I think I am, but I'm not really sure. Is there a place I can go to find that answer?
Yes, you can go to the same website. That's the state website, and you can look up your voter status, and it will tell you. It'll bring up your account if you are registered.
And what is the last day for me to request a vote by mail ballot?
That would be October 23rd.
That doesn't give you a whole lot of time to get them out and then me to fill it in and get it back to you. That doesn't seem fair.
Well, they're giving us more time than they did last election. But yes, they actually moved it back 3 or 4 days from the previous election. That was another law change. So that's a good one. It does give more time for the ballot to get back to us.
So I can request that vote by mail ballot on elections.virginia.gov.
Correct.
And can I get a vote by mail ballot in person, or do they typically have to be mailed to me in order to get one?
No, it needs to be mailed to you.
And then if I fill it out and send it back in, do you let me know that you have received my mail-in ballot?
Well, there is a tracking. Virginia uses a thing called Ballot Scout, and there's a link on our webpage that you can go to. We have barcodes on your address and our address coming back, so you'll be able to track your ballot. But to answer your question, no, we don't particularly just let you know that we got your ballot back.
Every guest gets, a weird wonky question. So, and I might have two for you. So this is one. If I request a vote by mail ballot and it is sent to me, and then for whatever reason, I decide I don't want to vote by mail, I want to go to the polls on election day. Can I still do that? Or once I've requested that vote by mail ballot, I am bound to vote by mail?
Well, yes and no. If you just showed up at the polling place and say, I'm here to vote, and they're going to say, no, we sent you a ballot, you're not able to vote, they're not going to let you sign in without a lot of additional paperwork. If you say, I never got it or so forth, they'll let you, do the paperwork and do that. Now, if we have plenty of time and you decide that I'm going to be home, I want to go in person, then you can request to cancel that vote by mail application.
Okay, that's good to know, because I could see where some people may say, you know what, to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and ask for them to send me an in-mail ballot, and then as we get closer to the election, it's fine. I'm going to go vote in person, and then there might be some confusion there.
Right, and that probably falls in the case of a lot of college students right now.
That's true. And is that if I get there and the paperwork that you're talking about, is that what they call a provisional ballot?
It is, exactly. You'd fill out a provisional, and they'd have to double check, after the election, because your ballot still could come in. And, just because you say I didn't get one, we have to make sure.
Now, you mentioned in the first segment that as people are listening to the show right now, early in-person voting is open. It opened on Friday as our listeners are hearing the show today. Tell me again where people can go to vote early in person.
All right, our new satellite office is at 261 Sunnyside Plaza Drive. That's the old Food Line Shopping Center there at Sunnyside on 522 north of Winchester. That's open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and then the last 2 Saturdays in October, the 24th and the 31st. Of course, our office here on Kent Street is also open during normal business hours, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and then we are also open the last 2 Saturdays, 9 to 5.
Those are great for people who still want the in-person voting experience, but are maybe going to be out of town or not maybe want to deal with the crowds they could encounter at the polls.
That is correct. And when you come in, it's just like being on election day. You will show your ID. You'll be giving a paper ballot. Once you mark your ballot, you'll walk over and you'll put it in the ballot scanning machine as well.
Okay, so here's my last wonky question, I promise. What if I vote early? I go and I do my early in-person voting, and then the bottom falls out of the candidate that I voted for, and I don't want to vote for them by the time election rolls around. I can't change that vote, can I?
No, you cannot. Sorry about that.
I can't rescind my vote and request a new one.
No.
Well, and that question, I will tell you, wasn't one of my personal wonky questions, but I had a friend when I told them that you were coming to do the show, they said, well, what happens if you change your mind and you want to vote for somebody else, but you've already voted? I said, I'm pretty sure you're stuck with whoever you voted for the first time around.
And a good thing is, a lot of folks have made their mind up already about how they're voting, and they'll be getting those to us early. But then there's a lot of other people who will wait and hold off to the last minute, and they'll want to be involved in or listening to some of the debates and so forth that are sure to come.
On election day, do you expect all of the polls to be open in the same locations that they have been in years past?
Yes, they will be. There might be a few room changes. If we normally met or voted in maybe a community room, this time to accommodate more people, we might be moving to the gym or the cafeteria. But all the normal locations, if you've always voted at Bass Hoover School, that's where you will vote again this year.
The ability to drop off my ballots will be available at all of the polling places as well.
On election day, yes. If you have voted by mail, if you got your ballot by mail and you don't want to put it in the mail, then you can go to the election or your polling place on election day, and there'll be a box for you to drop it in. And also there'll be a drop box at our office on Kent Street, 107 North Kent Street, and also at Sunnyside Plaza, the satellite office, there'll be one as well.
And those are open at any time, even before election day. So if I get my application and I fill it out and it's 2 weeks before the election, I can still put that vote in one of those drop boxes.
Your ballot, yes.
I like using the word vote. I think the more we say vote, the better off we are. So I have to request an application, though, if I want to vote by mail. I know a lot of other states are automatically mailing them. Some you have to request. Some are mailing you an application. Some are mailing you a ballot. But I have to specifically request an application for a ballot to come to me in the mail. Is that right?
We have to have a filled out application from you, even though a lot of folks in Virginia are getting applications in the mail that they're not requesting. I think right now there's 5 different organizations in Virginia that have sent out vote by mail applications, which is causing a lot of confusion to our voters. Well, I just mailed one last week. Why am I getting another one? And of course, it's causing extra work for our office. But yes, we have to have the application before we will send you a ballot.
Have you already gotten some vote by mail applications in?
Almost 10,000.
Really?
Prior to this election, I think the most we've ever got for an entire election was 1,700.
Wow. So talk to me for a second about the money end of this, because these elections don't happen at no cost. I mean, you guys have to print these things, you have to mail these things. There's a whole lot of expenses that are involved with the election process, not just on a national or state level, but on a local level. So how much does an election typically cost?
Wow, that's a tough question. We've got a long ways before we make it to the election. Probably your biggest two expenses are the poll workers. They do get paid, and our ballots. Of course, early voting at the satellite, that might run as much as 60,000 this year for equipment, for ballots, for the poll workers and so forth to work that. The early vote by mail, the law changed just a week and a half ago that we had to provide return postage. There's another $6,000 as of now. We pay for the outgoing mail, the postage on that. We're probably looking at all $6,500 on that. So postage alone, we could see as much as $15,000 on mailed ballots.
And that's hard for you to budget because, I mean, going into putting together your budget for this year, you didn't just start working on that budget a month or two ago. You have had to do that budget process well in advance of this election.
Oh, yes. I had to have my budget submitted back in November to the county. And with constant law changes leading up to this election, yes, I've had to go to the county and ask for additional funds to be able to pay for everything.
They were probably more than happy to give you that money.
Of course.
As a Frederick County taxpayer, I would have told them that it was fine to give you whatever money you needed. Does that make you feel better?
Oh, fair. I appreciate that. Right. You and two others.
Yeah. If there's anybody you need me to call, you just let me know.
Okay.
So we need to wrap up for today. So I just want to run through a couple of extra things. So Tuesday, October 13th is the last day to register to vote in the November election.
Correct.
Friday, October 23rd is the last day to request a vote by mail ballot.
Correct.
All Frederick County polling precincts will be open for voting on Election Day.
November 3rd.
And then you'll also be able to drop off any vote by mail ballots at a polling precinct or at the two drop box locations.
Correct.
And those locations are at your office at 107 North Kent Street and at 261 Sunnyside Plaza Drive.
Correct.
And then early in-person voting is open right now as people are listening, and they can go to your office again at 107 North Kent Street, or they can go to the satellite office over at Sunnyside Plaza Drive.
You got that right on.
Hey, see, there you go. I'm practicing to do your public service announcement for you. That's what I'm practicing for. I will put all of this information on the show notes page from today's radio show. So if somebody wants to double check those dates or make sure they have the right information. But if somebody is listening and they're not sure where to go vote in their precinct, you have a website that has all of the information about everything anybody ever wanted to know about voting. Can you tell people where to go to get that?
Oh, everything they need plus some. That's fcvotes.net.
fcvotes.net. We are going to wrap up our conversation today with Rich Vinskoski. He is the Director of Elections and the Registrar for Frederick County. Rich, thank you again for taking some time to chat with me. I can't wait to see how you're doing on November 4th.
Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure.
We'll be back tomorrow. I'll have a brand new episode of The Valley Today ready to go for you. It is, of course, Tourism Tuesday, so meet me back here just a few minutes after noon.